Okay, welcome back to day 205. Yeah. I want to take advantage of my glasses because I don't want to talk. It's too dark in here. What I did, I slept in like really long because I've been so tired. So I just slept for over 12 hours because I was just so tired, so full of allergies, that I just passed out. I'm like, see ya in half a day. Like fully asleep. Like fully asleep. And you're like, oh, don't oversleep. People were like, oh, don't oversleep or else it'll get worse. And I'm like, yeah, oversleeping is a thing. But like, I wasn't oversleeping. I was passed out recovering. And yeah, because I have people be like that, where they're like, oh, I don't want to oversleep. And I'm like, how long do you sleep? And they're like, 10 hours every night. I'm like, you're not oversleeping, dude. You're sleeping. Like 8 to 10 hours is 8 to 10, and people fluctuate more than that. That's just how much they sleep. And people that are like, oh, I always get up at this time and it's always fine. And I'm just like, do you wake up to an alarm? Would you like wake up at that time if every single day you did not have an alarm and you just continuously didn't have an alarm? Would you have woken up at that time? Anyway, the point was, would you have woken up at that time if you didn't have an alarm? Because like people do that all the time. It's just because he's like, one person's like, I only sleep for 3 hours every single night and I'm fine. And I'm like, are you? Have you tried actually sleeping? Yeah. Yeah. Since I'm irritated already because I have a slight headache and I love, you know? Like, I love it. Anyways, the point was, when I was watching Mark taste test, maple syrups. I shouldn't watch him, like low-key, very high-key. I just shouldn't watch him. He's really, Anyways, point was, I was watching him. He's like, oh, usually, of course, I donate things if I don't eat them and these taste test things. And I'm like, no, you don't. Like, maybe you should have an extra unopened box. But, like, you still probably don't. And then, like, with the maple syrup, if he just kept it in the bowl and didn't sip out of it straight. And he mentioned a bunch of people he worked with, like, they probably would have took it, but you put your mouth on it, dude. You didn't have to. You literally could have gave it away to the crew members. Because, like, I don't live with, like, obviously anyone like Mark, but, like, I had a friend of mine at a vending machine one time, overseas, got corn, like cream corn soup, corn soup, and they hate corn, like, full stop. They're like, I rather just no, like, don't. And so we're like, okay, one time we're getting a get together and we're like, what should everyone not eat? And they're like, and they said just no corn, they won't eat it. And I'm like, fair enough, no corn. And we go, and one day after when we were at school, like, they just texted like 3 in the morning. They're like, I accidentally got corn, who wants it? And just showed up with a can of corn, gave it to the other person. I was like, here you go. And they drank it, like, right there. They're like, okay, cool. And it just like, I had sweets from another person. They were Indian sweets, and they went to Pakistan, not the point. They're from Pakistan. So they went to Pakistan, got Indian Pakistani food or desserts, and we ate it. And more people, like, was sitting there because no one took it, and people in the cafeteria was like, dude, can we have some? We're like, yeah, dude, have it. And they just ate it. Like, people will eat food if given to them, and they would have done that with, like, maybe not through organizations, but your coworkers would have took your maple syrup. They just would have. And then with like, stuff like that, where just like you literally could have. And also, you never buy bulk things. Usually it is the one thing. Like, when I don't remember any other taste, like the MREs, you threw those away. There was no extra. You threw them away. Okay, we saw you throwing away your Pop-Tarts in a trash bag. You might have donated the unopened boxes, but we know that you opened the bag of gummy bears or gummy worm. No, Sour Patch Kids, or whatever. You can't donate that either. If you didn't eat it, you threw it away. Like, don't say you do things like that and then we know you don't. And, like, I don't want to be like, oh, we know we don't, because, like, I don't know dilly do about a celebrity or a YouTuber's life. That's just not, I don't. Newsflash, duh. But just, like, we literally saw it on camera, dude. Okay. And there's, like, a big difference because, like, other food or review Pro ZD, like, he mentioned, oh, like, when I think at the beginning of pandemic, he's like, I can't believe I'm gonna have these in my house now because I can't give it to any of my friends. So it's like he gives them away. You have enough friends to give away stuff that you don't want, you know? Then with the Kitchen and Jordan show. I know that they do a bunch of, with Kristen and Jen, they eat a bunch of foods, and they can't donate them because it's a one thing. They can't donate it. They literally ate out of it. Packaging, they open it, blah, blah. There's nothing to give away. But they say that they eat it, besides the ones that are in the very terrible, like, kind of section, because they mentioned just having it around the house and then eating it, and then, like, just having it around, like, they mentioned what went, like, by the next day, what was gone. So it's just like, they eat it. So, anyways, it just kind of really bothered me. Because, like, okay, dude. Shut up. Yeah, but then, it was also with, now, on the opposite end, I saw something where, somebody was, like, to Mark, like, not to him, but somebody, like, it was in the video where he's talking about everyone looks like Mark, and he mentioned, like, this person, that person, blah, blah, and when it came to Keanu Reeves, like, yeah, if you went this, and you, like, listed their characteristics, yeah, okay, they could have looked alike when you listed it, like he mentioned, but it was reminding me that a lot of times, like, there was, like, a comic strip online where it's like when my Korean mother wanted to learn English and all she wanted to learn was, like, American curse words. And somebody's like, oh, this is so Mama Fire and Mark. And I'm just like, is it? Are those their personalities? Or are they just listed as speaking Korean? And then with another thing where it's this guy who mentioned, was like, oh, everyone keeps telling me to speak Korean in a southern accent. So he went real southern and spoke Korean. And it killed me. I loved it. 10 out of 10. Thought it was hilarious. I love mixing things like that. Like, I have a relative who has a German / southern accent. Like, not a southern German accent. A American southern German with a German accent. Love it. Love that. Love that. But the point was that someone's like, oh, this is so Mark. I'm like, Mark doesn't have a southern accent. If anything, he has an Ohioan accent. Like, that's as southern as he is. And I'm not saying there isn't rural or southern places in Ohio, but the fact that it's like this guy is speaking Korean, it's suddenly, oh, it's Mark. It's like, is it Mark, or again, is it just Korean? You know? Where it's just like, it's such a weird thing. Like, it's a thing that people do where they're like, you meet one, like, or you really know about one Korean person, and you're really just like, oh, this is so them. Like, no, it's just Korean. It's just a Korean person, or the language. Okay, because it's just like, it's not true, dude. It's not. And I'm not saying that there is nothing. Like, okay, this reminded me of Mark, with, like, certain things, but it's just, like, certain things where I'm like, I didn't even think of Mark. Like, I could have thought of a bunch of other people over Mark with, like, the Southern Korean accent. Because, like, Mark doesn't give it now. He speaks a lot more in the last, like, year or two. But he didn't even speak Korean. You know? And I know that I think that's a more recent video as well. The Southern Korean thing. But it was, like, a thing where it's just, like, he doesn't even speak Korean. My back hurts, dude. Yeah, I don't know. I was trying to think of like another one, or like one of those that actually reminded me of someone like spot on, and then it didn't. Like people don't mention that one. I can't really remember it. Yeah, a lot of times when people are like, these two people look exactly alike, I'm like, do they? Or is it that they're like the same? And give it there's the opposite. Like I knew this one person who was like, oh my goodness, this redhead. You know what they say about redheads? To someone who was with naturally red hair, and he was a guy, and this guy was talking, like the person was talking about this like redhead woman, and I look 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 and I go, I wouldn't have done that, dude. And he's like, what? I'm just like, I'm like, dude, they're clearly siblings. And yeah, he was being super gross and sexual with his sibling, like about this, like talking to the guy and like that guy's sibling. And I'm just like, dude, first of all, read the dang room. Second of all, gross, like super hella gross, like super duper gross, like super disgusting. Why are you saying that about redheads? Like that was like, like I walked away. I'm like, ooh, and then I heard him being like, "That's my sister," and I'm pretty sure twin sister. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't know why you thought you should do that. That was dumb. Well, there's also the opposite, I guess. People are really awful. I don't like people, I think. People suck. Yeah. Humanity was a mistake. Anyways, I got up late. I don't know what I want to do. Also, the light in here is awful, and I hate it. Thank you. Wait, well, did it already pop up? It already popped up. We're almost to the amount of time that they had left. Yeah. Oh, there's me.